Hello, hello, construction professionals. Welcome to the podcast where we flip the script on what it means to live, breathe, and lead construction today. In this podcast series, we unpack how great construction can really be when you lead with humanity, put people first, and drop the bullshit of the way it's always been done. Our world has changed, our conversations have changed, and it's time construction catches up. Hello, Jonathan Sinelli here again. People first, then construction. Today, it is a pleasure to share space with Laura Vanderkooi. She was connected to me through our mutual friend Yashar from Mindshift Leadership, a true friend, and anybody that knows Yashar, humbling. So when Yashar said, Jonathan, you and Laura have something in alignment, you guys should connect, I was all about it. Tell me more. Laura and I had a few conversations ahead of time, and she's here today. She is here today to share her story. She's pivoted her career from healthcare to construction. And why that's important, listen, she spent 2 different careers, 6-year stints, which is a long period of time, and she still flipped the script and did something different. And she got into a construction world, something she had zero knowledge of. And what brought her there was a connection with people. Laura's been married for 30 years. Incredible husband Tim is a huge part of her life, and the support structure they have together has undoubtedly shown up in other areas of her life. She's been in an assistant administrative role for the majority of her career, and she loves it. You'll hear the passion in her voice, how when she's there to support others to be better versions of themselves, then life shifts, and that's what keeps her going. And she learned later on in her life, in her career, the power of having a voice, the power of speaking up, the power of contributing to the conversations. And she didn't have to sugarcoat it. She showed up with vulnerability. And that vulnerability led to the connections. It led to where she is today. Laura wants everyone to know that when you focus on others and have a positive impact on those around you, the opportunities that emerge can be miraculous. So hang tight. This one is really special. It's really raw. It's really vulnerable. Laura shares great things for those out there. We're flipping the script. We're changing the narrative. And we are changing the way things have always been done. Thanks for being part of the show. Thanks for making time for us. Tremendously exciting. A mutual friend, Yashar, connects us, and it was like mind-blowing. When our conversations on the telephone are just like the whole time I was like, you got to tell me more. How and I really want to lean into you and lead off of that. Like you've identified that you've spent much of your professional career in the administrative role being of service to others. So magical. And today we're talking because you've pivoted through different segments. And what blew my mind was especially going from healthcare to construction.
Yes.
Living the construction world to me is like, what? So like lean in there. Start off with that journey. How does that become?
It's where opportunities have presented themselves, and it's still using the administrative gifts that I have and just happens to be different industry. And when I saw the opening where I currently am, I thought, well, I've never done this before. I've never worked in construction, but based on the job description, I know how to do all those things. So I thought, why not? Another opportunity to learn more and just gain more knowledge about another industry. So I thought, hey, what have I got to lose?
Like, so the shorter answer is, some people would say a hell of a lot. Comfortableness, if that's even a word, right?
Yeah.
I mean, talking. Tell me through your journey, but if I recall, it was like sort of 6 years in the healthcare industry, and then you pivoted. What was before construction? Remind me, before construction.
I worked for a church.
Right. Sure. Again, that was another.
So another significant shift. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going healthcare, church, construction.
Construction.
Really, well, human beings, especially as we transition through life, most times we like to sort of stay comfortable. Like, I'm going to stick to the industry that I know.
Right. Yeah, and that's a fair description, I think, of most people. And while the industry has changed for me, what I do hasn't particularly changed. And it doesn't necessarily matter the industry you're in when you're working as an executive assistant. You're still, I like to say, herding cats to a degree and just making making things happen and helping people in ways that allow them to thrive in their roles. And so it's a coming alongside, and I feel like I can do that well. And so I've now just shifted from a church to construction, and it's been great. It's been a wonderful shift for me.
That's magical. And I'm sitting there going inside my body's yelling, hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah. You know, well, if there's sort of a messaging that we can share with the world, and I would even say children, because it's so magical, especially as young adults are pivoting through to find their path in life. What you're talking about is you didn't really, you didn't at all. It doesn't sound like you put yourself into sort of a box, which we all sort of compartmentalize. You hear, oh, I'm in this box, so I'm going to stay within this box. Instead, you're extrapolating. In fact, you're kicking down the walls of the box and saying, here are my skill sets. I know what I'm great at. I know
Yep.
how I can show up and serve others. Right.
Yeah, and it took me a long time to be okay with that, actually.
Oh,
When I finished grade 13, so I'm dating myself, um, or aging myself rather, I didn't know what I wanted to do for university. And I thought, "Oh, I'm going to take 6 months and I'm going to try and figure that out." And I just started working in an administrative role for a doctor, actually. And I never went back to school. And I've just landed in different admin roles where I feel like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I'm really good at this. And why would I stop? And do I need to have a certificate? Not necessarily. And I've just learned so much in every role. There's just, it's opportunity has presented itself for me to grow, and I just run with it.
and I can see that energy when you talk, and you use a specific word that held weight for me, and that's I love what I do. Right.
I
So
do. I really do.
yeah, and I can see it again in your face. Like
Yeah.
there's reflections, not like, you know, it becomes really easy at times to say, well, this is what I do. And you sort of label yourself as a
Yeah.
human being and say, this is what I actually love this. Like it actually gets me out of bed and drives me in the morning. Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. It is. Yeah. I count it a privilege wherever I'm working to support the people that I do. And I've had a huge variety. I mean, Gosher was one of those people when I worked in
Mhm.
healthcare, and a myriad of people who were part of that healthcare team. And then moving into the role at the church where I supported a board of directors and all of the senior leadership. And now I support a president and a vice president and help the senior leadership team with a lot of their things. And it's just amazing to be able to come alongside and help people. For me, I know it's not everybody's jam, but it's mine for sure.
Well, this is what we're talking, because if you can share one or two nuggets of gold that land with somebody else out there who's sort of going through some of this, then job well done. Right. Like,
Yeah.
and there's a couple of burning questions. I mean, the first one
Right.
that comes to mind is when you're going through these transitions in life, is there checks and balances, questions you ask yourself? Like, how do you know for you what's the right maneuver?
I I just really sense, like, when I've had an interview with somebody, does this feel like it could be a good fit? And there have been times where I thought, "Oh, nope, this is not gonna be a good fit for me." And I trust my gut, and I am a very much a verbal processor, and my husband bears the brunt of that verbal processing most of the time. And we just walk through, okay, what are the pros, what are the cons, and does it feel like it's a good fit? And if it is, hey, let's go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what is allured, I think is the right, or like what attracted you to construction?
Well, to be perfectly honest, the proximity to my home was a huge win.
Sure.
Prior to this job, I was commuting to Oakville from Newmarket, and thankfully, COVID allowed me to work at home for 2.5 years.
Sure.
And so the location of my current job to my home is about a 20-minute drive, which is great. And again, I thought, hey, it's a family owned company that's been around for a lot of years. It's experienced some great growth. And there was a woman as a president, and I thought, oh, this is also very cool. I would love to be able to work with her, and that has turned out beautifully.
Oh my gosh, right?
Yeah.
There. So the short answer is there's no real um, questions that you go through. It's how do you feel? Like I
Yep.
look around, you look
Yep.
around and go, oh, does this suit our lifestyle as you know, as a family unit and serve me
Yep.
well now? Yeah. Is it close to home? Cool. Like think of, that's a
Yes.
huge deal. Newmarket to Oakville, you know, we're talking an hour plus, whatever that is. Like, you
Yep.
know, for those out there, you're talking more than an hour one way in a vehicle.
That's correct.
That's that's a game changer. Like that
Absolutely.
changes your energy, changes your day. Everything changes.
It
You know,
does.
now it's like, oh my gosh, something's happening at home. Okay, I can run out and run back, and it's sort of
Yep.
like zero impact. When you talk about um, a female leader in construction, I get what we're gonna hold on to
Yeah.
that thought because that's a big one
Yes, it
that we're
is.
gonna
It
that we're
really
gonna pivot
is.
back to. You know, I feel that women are sort of misrepresented, underrepresented in the construction world enough. So I can't wait to sort of get to that one.
Yep.
And before doing so, like here's the other thing that's sort of surfacing for me as you're talking about sort of these checks and balances. So now knowing what you've seen over the, you know, decades of doing this,
Hmm.
is there one, two, or three things, or is there anything that you take from past versions of yourself and you bring forward into the current realm, the current construction role that
As I have learned who I am as a woman who is very quickly approaching 50, um, I have a voice.
mm,
And it's taken a lot for me to learn that my voice is actually worth being heard, and the things that I have to share are worth contributing and have value. And I really feel that in the role I'm in now, I am able to utilize my voice well, and I am heard. And so just to be able to see the progression, and not to be afraid to use your voice. It You have to kind of push yourself beyond what you would normally do, and or at least that's been my experience. And just going for it and saying, hey, you know what, I have an idea. And I think primarily because of the role that I've had for so much of my life, I'm usually in meetings or in conversations as a support, so I don't typically have a voice in a meeting. But now I'm actually being pulled into meetings and asked to contribute. And so it's new territory for me, but I'm really appreciating and enjoying the opportunity.
beautiful. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
So is this new to this role, or was there a moment in time where, you know, when you talk about having a voice, was there a moment in time where I'm making it mean, so please add clarity.
Hmm.
You felt as a human being in the role you were doing, you were there to do a role, and you maybe at one point you felt like you had no voice. Was there a tipping point?
Yes. Um, Towards the end of my tenure in my last job, I found a way to share my voice with my direct report. And I would, outside of the meetings, I would say, hey, I have a thought about X that was being discussed. What do you think about this? And very often he would take my suggestions and run with it and bring it back to whomever needed to hear the information and then utilize it. And he would always give me credit, which is lovely. Um, but it was always off to the side. And now I'm just automatically pulled in. And it's been a real gift for me just to feel that validation and understand that what I have to say matters, even though I'm still learning a whole lot about this industry.
I'm just pausing because that is, you know, it's bringing some emotion in me. It really is. It's like, you know, the power of you say that I matter and I have a voice, right? And
Mm,
to know that those around you feel that same way, you build that psychological safety, right? That
yes.
you matter, that you're not afraid to say something, and there's just
Yeah.
you're blindly support it. Like that's huge.
It has been huge for me. Really huge.
And these are my, um, you know, sort of, I suppose, cognitive biases jumping in the way and to say that my brain is making it seem that the fact that you came from other industries. You're not bringing in presuppositions and stereotypes and other things into the construction world.
Mm-hmm.
So you're sitting there wholeheartedly as a human being, taking it all in and going, how does this feel, sound, taste? And
Yep.
if it makes me feel this way, if it lands this way with me, now you're demonstrating, you're sharing that, you have the courage to say, hang on, Lisa, Tim, or whoever else is in,
Yep.
guys and girls, this is what this seems like to me. Like, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's been really cool. I think the biggest change for me, especially from two very opposite experiences with a church and then construction, even actually just after Lisa hired me, she said, I was really hesitant to hire you because of your background coming from a church and coming into construction and knowing the kind of language you would hear in the office or in the yard. And I just wanted to say, oh shit, it's totally fine. Don't worry about it. But she was genuinely concerned. And it's been an easy transition for me, but it was just so funny that was her biggest concern. That I was going to be offended.
And I love that, because I think that, there's the conversation that we are breaking barriers, communicating, is that, when we talk about putting people first and leading differently, we talk about everybody matters. We talk about people, the human being wants to be seen, heard, and understood. And excuse me, if I walked into a church or a bank and used the language that we use on construction sites,
yes,
I'd be arrested.
Right.
And you walk into a construction site and it's just like, hey, good morning, asshole. Yeah, good to see you too, right? People sort of don't even flinch.
No,
right?
Not at all.
People don't flinch. And it's like, if you haven't said the F word in the first sentence or two of your morning, then, something's disruptive.
Something's wrong. Yeah.
Right.
And it's honestly allowed me the opportunity to really be me. I don't feel like I have to be so cautious about what I say, which I don't know. It's a little bit freeing just to be able to be authentically me in every way.
But I'm so like, yes, hell yes, right?
Yeah.
Hell yes. And if you piss somebody off, okay, we fix that, or we don't. Like, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's like, you're going to say what you're going to say. And if it lands with somebody the wrong way, then sometimes it's not you, sometimes it's them. How are they taking it? But it also creates awareness. Like, this is where the whole conversation starts to shift, where in a different framework, again, I'm going to use the banking industry, but I love the church sort of, we want to say something and then we tiptoe in our mind. Well, how do I frame that politically soft? And here you're saying there's a real distinct difference between authentically saying it, because your point gets out, and sort of pivoting and tiptoeing around it. Hey, I think we could say it a little bit different. You know what you said in the meeting? It was shit. It didn't land.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, now we're having a different conversation, rather than having 6 emails, 3 phone calls, and say, well, I think it went okay. No, it was terrible. Reframe it. Okay. So thank you for this. And it seems like, the people around you have supported that and really helped foster your growth through that.
Yeah.
Right?
I would agree.
Now, part of what you do is supporting the leadership team. And I understand the leadership team to be Lisa and Tim, right?
Jeff, Lisa and Jeff. Tim's my husband.
Sorry, Tim's your husband. Thank you. Thanks.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, you support him too.
Yes, I do.
Right?
For a lot longer.
We're talking about Lisa and Jeff here. So two very different human beings, I'm sure.
Yes,
they are. Part of being in that role is to support them. Like, how do you connect with them to ensure you're giving them everything you need?
So right from day one, when I started to meet with them, I'm a very relational person, and I just sat down and started to get to know them. Who are they as individuals? What kind of makes them tick? What do they need? Neither one of them have had an executive assistant before me. So we all had a lot of learning to do together, and it's been almost 10 months that I've been with them. And it's been, I want to say, relatively easy. And we just hit our groove, and they both need different things from me, which is fine. A lot of similar things as anybody who needs an EA, just with calendars and managing meetings and that kind of thing. But I help support them very differently. And I just do it through conversation. And if something's not working, and I've asked multiple times over the last 10 months, is this working for you? Do you need me to shift anything? And because I need to know that, because I want to support them to the best of my ability. And if I don't know, then I don't know. So I just, lots of conversation, and that's been working.
So, I love what you said there, where you become curious. Like, you just ask the simple
Yeah,
questions.
absolutely. Yeah. Tell me about who you are. And I learn about their families and where they're going on vacation, and just, I love to know people and have those, build relationship and have those deep conversations. It's just something that I enjoy.
Yeah. So everything we do is relationship building. And now that Jeff, and Lisa, like, what makes them tick, what goes on in the world. So when they show up and they're having a shit day, like, hey, is everything cool?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
Well,
And how can I help is often, the question. What can I do to alleviate? What can you throw at me to take something else off your plate so that you can focus on what your attention needs to be on right now?
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. It's like, this is the messaging for all the folks out there who want to listen, who want to hear this, or maybe don't want to hear this, but need to hear this. It's sometimes we put up walls and say, like, I can't, and I put that purposefully in quotation. I can't. I dislike that word tremendously. I can't do.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go say that to Lisa. I can't go say that to Jeff. Well, why not? Like, they're a human being. They're
Yep.
wired the exact same way. They still have blood running through their veins. Get to
Yep.
know them. Ask them, hey, how can I best support you?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And I think maybe it comes with some maturity and some comfort level of who I am, and knowing that I have skills that can help. And it took a while for them to understand and learn what I could do to help them. And I just had to show them that these are the things I could do. And I, I don't know. I am so happy to be there. It's a really fabulous team.
Wow. There's no magic pill, folks. It's ask
Nope.
questions.
Yep.
It's become curious. It's actually give it out with the people in front of you. It's show up wholeheartedly for them.
Yep.
Like, what's going on in your world? Okay, now I understand. Great. Well, how can I make life easier for you?
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
How can you, if they're traveling, I'm sure you and I have had conversations about this before this offline. We had conversations say, like, you're already amplifying them. You're already saying you're going to be going away. So I've made sure that you are as comfortably as humanly possible. This looked after, this looked after. Like, right then and there is, like, that's truly putting people first. That's showing up for those around you.
Yeah. And it just, any way that I can come alongside and help somebody feel like they have what they need, and they can thrive in what they need to do because they don't have to think about those other details, then it's a win for me.
Show up for others, folks.
Yeah.
Show up.
Yep.
It's putting yourself aside for a moment, right? Because when you put yourself aside, it's organically going to come back to you. That energy resonates back in so many different ways. Like the way you talk. Hey, now you're being pulled into meetings purposefully because you matter. Because, hey, we want Laura to know all the details, because that's going to paint the holistic picture. And now we're all aligned.
Yeah. And it ultimately helps them. If I have the information, then I can come in and help in other ways. It just holistically, like you said, helps.
It's so different than, okay, Jonathan, we had a meeting about this. Okay, but if I wasn't part of that meeting, I don't know those details.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
You give me the information. It's like every human. You give them the information, the autonomy to make the decisions, and then they can contribute.
Yep.
This is the basic fundamentals of being a human being. But especially, I say this more times, sometimes in construction, we, okay, Laura, you don't need to be part of this meeting. Jonathan, you need to be part of this one. Like, we pick and choose when, listen, give people the option. Hey, Laura, do you want to be a part of this meeting? And then you can decide, yeah, it's going to serve me well because I'm going to get the whole picture of what's going on. Yep. Or not.
Yes. Yep. And I'm still learning where I need to jump in because I don't necessarily know all the ins and outs, but both Lisa and Jeff will be like, oh yeah, come on into this one. This will be a good meeting for you to jump into. So it's helpful.
Thank you for that. Okay, I want to pivot to Lisa because this is super exciting too, right? Lisa, female president, like,
yes,
rock star right away.
Yes.
To me, I'm sitting there going, this is what is not talked about enough. This is
Yeah.
where the conversations are shifting. Uh, what's that like? Tell the world out there. We got,
Oh, Jonathan, it's amazing. Honestly, I had no idea that we were going to click the way that we have. And she is a visionary and is so passionate about women working in the trades and in construction, and just wants to promote that and speaks very honestly about that. She's so passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion and what that looks like within our organization. And I've not met anybody like her before, and I count it such a privilege to support her. It's honestly incredible.
Is there a point in time where before you enter this role, where your brain is like putting up walls and going like, what the hell am I to expect?
Um, I don't I don't think so. I had a couple of interviews before my final one that Lisa was in, and I thought, well, we'll see what she's like. And I don't think she was sold on me at first, just based on where I was coming from. And then I elaborated about some things from my personal life, and I think that that was kind of the flip of the switch. And she thought, oh, okay. And they offered me the job very quickly after that. And I thought, okay, this lady is very strong. And that was just my first impression. Not that that's a bad thing. I thought, oh, okay, this could be really interesting. And having not, I didn't meet Jeff until actually after I started. And I, I was just looking forward to the opportunity to learn from her, because, and oh my goodness, have I learned from her? She just is a wealth of knowledge and so passionate, which is incredible for me.
So much there. And
Yeah.
we're going to come back to a couple of, except that the first thing that's buzzing around for me is, when you talk about so much to learn from her, like, can you succinctly pin one or two big things that you really learned from working with Lisa?
it it's so important to listeners, and to make sure that these are heard, and to look for ways to promote people who are doing a good job. And if women are in roles that they're doing well in, what are other places within the organization that they could move into potentially that would elevate them within the company to continue their growth and their trajectory? And just looking for those opportunities, and just the way she thinks, I'm in awe often. Just how do you do that? She's very smart. And I, yeah, I still have so much to learn. Like, I'm almost out of words to try and describe what I learned from her. She just, yeah, she is a powerhouse.
Thank you. Well, you said something really powerful that more times than not, most construction organizations don't do that. It's promote from within and look deep,
Yeah.
look within our own family first. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
More times than not, I'm not being stereotypical here, I'm basing it on information and facts, is that, we need to fill a role. What do you, okay, get in touch with this headhunter, get out
Yeah.
there. When what you're demonstrating here is, no, you start within. And
Yeah.
nice that Lisa supports that, because
Yeah.
that organic is going to send a message to somebody. Like, who the hell doesn't want to work for an organization like that?
That's right. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And we work hard, and it's going to take some time. People have to sort of show that they're doing a good job and they've got a handle on what they're doing, and apply for other roles. And I've seen people just move up, and it's been great to watch.
That's amazing. Like, what a relationship you form with her. And it comes back to what I captured when you were chatting, is it started with you showing up vulnerably.
Yeah.
You were in that interview and you shared something of personal nature with her.
Yeah.
And right away, it created a connection.
It did. Yeah, it really
Right.
did.
And that's what we're missing most times. Most times we show up, we armor up, like, I can't show that side of me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And historically, I wouldn't have. And for whatever reason, I felt like I was in a safe space that I could. And I'm very thankful I did.
And you hadn't even started the role yet, right? You're in a safe space. Like, look at that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes to the organization. Like, we've already created a safe space, and this person hasn't even committed yet.
Right.
Right.
Well, I even my first interview that was part of with HR, I thought, wow, that I was just thrilled with who was running HR and have honestly developed a great connection with them as well. So everywhere I turn, I meet incredible people in this company, and it's absolutely been a gift for me.
Life is about connections, folks. It's about relationships. You don't have to be a jerk, right? In construction, we turn around and say, "Oh, I have to be a hard ass to do this." No, you don't have to do anything. You have to show up as a human being.
Yep.
Show vulnerability. Say, "I'm having a terrible day."
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely. Because
So
we all have terrible days.
we all have terrible days, right? And so now,
Yeah.
so maybe here now, Lisa's having a terrible day because we all have those moments, and
Yep.
she needs a smile. Like, what do you do to really shake that?
I haven't encountered a terrible day, really, with her, but even actually today, we were having a conversation. Just, I don't even remember what the context was. And I said that somebody had made some comment to me that, oh, I can't wait until I'm older and I just don't have to worry about my hair anymore. And it had been followed up a comment that I made about my own hair, that I've now let it go gray. And it was a total slam. It was unintentional. And Lisa laughed very loud. And it was a really good light moment. I think we probably both needed that this afternoon. So I don't know. I always look for another way to be relational, and that usually seems to lighten conversation.
I took a deep breath. I like, beautiful answer. You simply take a temperature read on the scenario
Yeah.
and inject whatever needs to be injected at that moment in time. Like, there's
Yep.
no script for it. There's no magic pillows. No,
No.
there's listen, folks, everybody's wired differently. And when you saw an opportunity, you're just like, again, you're showing up wholeheartedly with vulnerability as a human being. Like, this happened today. And so this was my response. And what does it need? And it sparks the excitement and the laughter that
Yep.
we need for that brief moment in time, so that we can sort of recalibrate and pivot and keep going.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. So now you're working with Jeff,
Yep.
you're working with Lisa, you've worked with male leaders in the past. From your experiences, is there sort of a similarity? Is there something that you can pin difference between men and women?
I think when women are in leadership roles, they have to be bold and confident, and sometimes be that loudest voice in the room to be heard. And I don't think that the same descriptor are of men. If a woman is in that leadership role, sometimes she's labeled as bossy or bitchy, and that's not describing a guy like that. They would say, "Oh, that guy's confident. He's got what he needs for that role." And I think that's an unfair way that women have been portrayed within leadership roles. And I'd like to think that we're working on turning that on its ear and changing things, even just within our little realm of reality. But yeah, I don't know. I've been privileged to work for incredible men and women in my entire career, and have learned from each person that I have worked with. So I don't know. There are differences for sure, and some of the men that I've worked for have been incredibly relational, and some of the women not so much. But I just have the best of both worlds right now, which is pretty great.
Well, that's amazing. And my confirmation bias was jumping in when you were talking about just construction there for a moment. We were talking about how the difference between a man in that leadership role where he can come in as sort of cocky and arrogant, and that's viewed upon as confidence or misjudged for competence, right? And yet a woman who has the competence to step into that role can oftentimes be mislabeled and judged, right?
Yes,
and
for sure.
let's, I think I know for me, some of the messaging that not all the messaging that I'm talking about is, we're on a different trajectory. We're past that.
Yeah.
There's so many millions of conversations in the world that occur, and yet why are we still talking about the same sort of bullshit stuff that has been
Yeah.
around for decades in construction? Like, let's flip the script, folks. Change the narrative.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. The narrative definitely needs to be changed. And I think that Lisa is definitely someone that is working towards that. And she works with a couple of women in construction organizations. And so one is Canadian, one's national, or Canadian US. And it's an opportunity to build the momentum and have more voices heard.
Thank you for that. Magical. Okay, 3 fun questions for you.
Okay.
An alien comes down from outer space.
Yep.
And asks you, what do you do? How do you succinctly describe that?
Well, I said it a little bit earlier. I heard cats. And I say it in jest, but I have the privilege of taking tasks that would be potentially cumbersome and just slow leaders down off their plates so that they have space in their brain, in their day, to accomplish things that are life-giving for them and feel more urgent. And it just frees them up.
Yeah. And this is the thing that isn't always observed at a high level. And, we're noting that more now, is that behind every great leader, there's a team of people.
Yeah.
Right. So that makes a big difference. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. So, all right. Knowing what you know now, like, you've been in construction.
Yep.
For a period of time, what, in your opinion, does construction need more of or less of?
It needs more women.
Okay.
And I think as people are going into schools and sharing what the options are within the trades, it's opening a door for girls who would not necessarily want to fit even into a role like mine, but they want to be doing something hands-on and working in construction. And I think we're starting to communicate with girls that it's okay and you should consider this. It's not a wrong job. It's not just for boys. And
Yeah.
I think just giving them permission is huge. And I think we just need to continue to say that over and over again until the message gets heard more.
Yeah, I think you're right. And so we bring women into the industry, and that's happening, and it's going to happen more.
Yep.
Women. So fill in the gaps here. Women offer X to the industry versus what males do. Does that make sense? That question?
It does.
Okay.
We have different perspectives.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, I can speak in my relationship with Tim. We've lived in the same home for almost 30 years, and he'll suggest, look at this, and I'll say, well, have you thought of it this way? And because we're just different people and different gender, we don't necessarily think of what the other has thought of. And just being open to somebody else's perspective is huge. And I think by bringing more women into the construction industry, it just allows the opportunity for different perspective and potentially better. I don't want to use the word better. Just different ways of doing things, and potentially allowing for more growth.
Yeah, I totally understand that, and couldn't agree more. I mean, we're talking about creativity, right? I love
Yes.
the way you talked about. And thank you for tying in your personal marriage relationship, because there's a prime example, right? Men and women at times see things differently. So here's a different perspective. And who the hell doesn't want that in their organization? Who the hell doesn't want that on a construction site? Who the hell doesn't want a different? Hey, rather than putting the shelf here, pivot it, 90 degrees. Oh, I didn't see that. Why? Because men sometimes think differently. Like, okay, I got to put that shelf up, mount it there, and move on. Or one might say, well, before you do that, maybe try pivoting it. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that. All right, last question.
Okay.
You're sharing one message with the world, and this message is going to happen on one of those airplanes, and you'll be pulling a banner behind it, one of those wavy banners in the sky.
Yep.
What's the one message you want to share to the world?
a kind word to somebody may be the best thing that happens to them in their day.
Oh, gave me shivers.
Like you don't even think sometimes. I mean, even when you say something to someone, if you're just grabbing a coffee and you look them in the eye and ask them how their day is going or thank them, they may have had people shitting on them all day.
Yeah.
And you may be the only person who actually engaged with them as a human being. And for me, that's easy. It's not a big deal. But to them, that may have been, the turning point in their day. So it goes back to the being aware of other people around you and just look for those opportunities to connect.
Oh, and that's what it's all about, folks. Connection.
Yeah.
Once we connect with others, then we correct whatever there is to correct, if there's anything to correct.
Yeah.
But without connection, life is empty and meaningless because we've got nothing.
Yeah.
We've got nothing. Laura, this has been a pleasure. Thank you. You
You're
left it
welcome.
on
Thank
such
you.
a magical note. Like, there it is, guys. Connection. Let's connect. Be kind and connect. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been an honor. It's a true pleasure. You've shared some magical stuff with others to hear. And, if people take one or two things, then, our conversation was a smash hit. So thanks for being a
Absolutely.
part of it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Touched, moved, and inspired by the conversation with Laura today. Listen, huge takeaway. Be kind. You don't have to show up as an apple or a jerk in the construction world. It happens so many times. And vulnerability. We keep coming back to this, and this is a prime example. Laura illuminated that for us, how vulnerability built trust with her and Lisa before she even had the job. Like, doesn't that sink in? Vulnerability. We don't need to armor up. Let's break the narrative the way it's always been. We're here to change things. We're here to flip the script. Breaking the patterns, changing the narrative. Show up with kindness. Respect people for human beings. Magical things will happen. Listen, thanks for being a part of this. This one was touching, moving, and inspiring for me. And if it did the same thing for you, then be kind and share it with somebody else so they may be touched, moved, and inspired as well. Until we connect again, be well.